All right, folks, I dropped this book September 2022, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. What did I say in this book? They are going to be coming after every single program that they believe gives us an advantage over them, even though nearly everything is for white folks in this country. Well, guess what? It happened on Wednesday. Go to my iPad, Anthony. Federal judge in Texas orders minority business agency open to all races. Now, the Minority Business Development Agency was created under President Richard Nixon. The purpose of this was to assist African Americans and other minorities when it comes to being able to do business with the federal government, providing skills, resources, also access to dollars. Now, the federal government spends upwards, y'all, of $600 billion annually in contracts. Go right to my iPad. In fiscal 2022, MBDA clients secured $1.6 billion in private and government contracts, agency data show. The agency also helped businesses raise $1.2 billion in capital, as well as create or retain roughly 16,000 jobs. Black-owned businesses received $680 million in contracts, the most of any group, followed by Hispanic-owned businesses at $526 million. Now, understand that's 2%. That's less than 2% of federal contracts. Oh, so what do these white conservatives do? They sued. So they argued that, oh, these are discriminatory, and then they give an unfair advantage to certain groups, as if white Americans have not had a massive advantage. So what they did was they filed a suit in Texas. And let me explain to you what they're doing, because they're judge shopping. They are specifically filing lawsuits in places knowing that judge is going to rule in their favor. All of y'all Simple Simon fools who kept telling me I was making too much of a big deal about Biden and Harris appointing federal judges, do you dumbasses now see what I was talking about? This one, again, out of 900 plus federal judges in America, this one federal judge issues this opinion and rules that the MBDA must now serve everybody and not just minorities. Go to my iPad. This judge, Pittman, has emerged as a consistent conservative voice on a range of politically volatile issues. In November 2022, he struck down President Biden's student loan forgiveness program. Months earlier, he set aside a Texas law barring adults younger than 21 from carrying handguns after concluding that age restrictions violated the Second Amendment right to bear arms. Now, here's the deal. If the MBDA under the Commerce Department does not appeal this decision, this goes into effect all across the country. Scholars are now saying, oh, guess what? This ruling could very well change every single federal program that deals with disadvantaged businesses. Oh, I'm not done, Simple Simons out there. Guess what's then going to happen? They're going to go after every state program. Then they're going to go after every county program and every school district program and every city program. They're going to go after every single program. Oh, let's go beyond companies. They're going to go after corporate America. They've already gone after academia. So what they're saying is, oh no, you should be measuring everybody the same, even though white folks have been getting the hookup in everything. But y'all say the judges Biden Harris appoint don't matter. Oh, Trump gonna fill my pockets with some money, so we gonna roll with him. Stephen Miller, Trump's white nationalist top advisor, he was the one behind the lawsuit that stopped the money going to black farmers. So all you dumbasses running around here talking about Trump, when y'all tell me about Waka Flocka and Lil Wayne and Kodak Black and all of them, don't nobody want to talk about their lawsuits stopping and targeting black people. And you know what they doing, Matt? They are even using the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1866 Civil Rights Act against black folks in these lawsuits. Matt?
I was listening to a podcast this morning from the National Constitution Center, and they were talking about the recent decision regarding the insurrection and whether Trump could be barred from the ballot. And one of the contributors on there said something I never heard, but I thought was brilliant. He said litigation as politics. He said that litigation is often used as politics, and that's precisely what's happening here. Your comment on the venue shopping is exactly right with Pittman, especially because what he said here is he said the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause essentially bars the MBDA from being able to consider race. But the reason we know that it exists is to make sure that an imbalance is somewhat righted by creating an agency that helps minority business owners. And I think what is so problematic about this, but is so important to your point that you always make, is that, there's just a fundamental presumption that when you step into a judge's courtroom, he or she is supposed to be fair. But the reality is there are lawyers, including me. When I file a lawsuit, I have to consider the venue where I'm filing it, right? If I file in a judge's court where I know she's more inclined to be plaintiff friendly, then I know that may help my client. And that's essentially what they're doing here. But what's scary about it is you have judges who are deciding on bedrock issues and divesting people of longstanding constitutional rights using the same logic that put in place these agencies to support us. And what's scary about this is not only are they going to continue attacking state programs, we're in the Fifth Circuit, the most conservative appellate circuit in the entire country. So the idea that the Fifth Circuit is not going to rubber stamp this is absurd. They are likely going to rubber stamp it. And then you get to a conservative Supreme Court with a 6-3 majority that has already said universities can't use race in their determinations. So the problem with this is it's going to set a precedent, or could set a precedent, where all the programs that are in place to try to right that imbalance to some extent are going to be under attack. And we're going to be going back to before the 1960s and the Warren Court that put in place some of these constitutional rights to help us, or recognize these constitutional rights to give us a fair shot in this country.
So when you look at the suit, Kelly, one is a guy out of Fort Worth. Another is a immigrant from communist Romania. Go to my iPad. Another one is a white man out of Colorado, and then their whole deal is like, oh, they just wanted to be able to grow their businesses, and they all worked hard to get where they are. They all overcame obstacles in pursuit of the American dream. They all cared deeply about their businesses, and they all wanted but couldn't obtain assistance from the same federal program. They're also white, a salient detail in this case. Now, guess what? What Pittman didn't talk about are the programs that the federal government had to benefit women. See, when a Tennessee federal judge ordered changes to the 8A program, it was because a white woman applied. Same thing. I'm looking to grow my business, and I can't use those services. But guess where she actually helped grow her business? Through one of the programs for women, white women. Now, she didn't mind that program, but she sued for the minority program and got that thrown out. That's what we're dealing with. We're going to see these, and I'm telling you, everybody who's watching and listening better buckle up. They are going to go after any and every program in America that tries to offer some assistance to black people and others when we have had to deal with centuries of white racism, white affirmative action, white DEI, white business development programs.
What I find so insidious about this entire situation is the notion that they keep pushing that these programs for minorities is the only way to get business, and that if white people aren't in them, then they are at a disadvantage, when there are plenty of other ways to get business that don't require, frankly, the strenuous processes that are available and have to be done in order to get into that program, to be approved for that program, to get money from that program. So it's insidious in that there's actually an easier way for these white people to get money, and that's just to apply to any other program. But the fact of the matter is they can't stand the thought of Black people, of minorities, having any type of advantage, which I don't even like using that word in this context, because it's not even an advantage so much as it is a balancing act. It tips the scale so that everything is relatively equal. I'm not even going to say fully equal, but more equal than it was. And they can't stand the fact that there are people in this country, Black people in this country, who are just as good as them and actually need the help because they've been so disenfranchised. And it just comes off as greedy, as insidious, as exceeded hatred for Black people as a whole to be as full Americans as white people have already been.
So, Michael, here's what they're trying to say. Oh, well, the categories are just too broad, so they're assuming that this applies to all, and so then they go, well, this doesn't apply to an Oprah, so this is just too broad and unfair.
Yeah, this is a huge backlash to 2 terms of President Barack Obama, and this backlash was unleashed under Donald Trump's administration. Going back to, we can look at September 2020 when Trump was in office, and he did an executive order banning critical race theory being used in training for federal employees. Then he starts attacking the 1619 Project. Okay, and September 2020 was 6 months before Christopher Rufo put out his tweet talking about how they were going to redefine what critical race theory was, right, and then start attacking it. So all this is all combined together, and this is trying to attack any programs that are perceived as being beneficial to African Americans. So this is why the judicial branch of government is so important, because they interpret law from the legislative branch of government, and they interpret policies coming from executive branches of government. So we're going to see more of this. And when you had the sisters on from the Fearless Fund, okay, you talked about how we were going to see more of this and how they were going to use that lawsuit from Ed Blum. You said he was really trying to attack corporations. Here we see this attack on the federal government, and for them to use the 14th Amendment, which was created for African Americans, the 14th Amendment of 1868. Now they're trying to use that Reconstruction Constitution against us, and then trying to use the Civil Rights Act of 1866, which allowed African Americans to enter into contracts, legal agreements. That was specifically for African Americans. Now they're trying to use that against us also. So this is why elections have consequences, and why it's important to understand history. And once again, we have to take these people out of power, because it's going to get worse if we don't fight back.
Yeah, I mean, again, I keep, and so for all y'all Simple Simons, hey man, you ain't that but a Democratic shield. All you done is said here, shilling for the Democrats. Do you idiots realize every single one of these judges ruling against affirmative action, ruling against the MBDA, ruling against the Fearless Fund, ruling for all of these folks, they're all conservative, Republican appointed judges.
Mm-hmm. Can I jump in there?
Go ahead.
Can I say something? I just wanted to say, Michael really hit something on the head that's super important. These judges very often are textualists, and they talk about what the constitutional amendment was at the time, why it came about. And I'm so glad he mentioned that, because when you look at these Reconstruction era amendments, like the 14th Amendment, it was put into place to protect us, right? So the idea that a judge would use it as a bludgeon against the very people it was intended to protect is not only intellectually dishonest, but it shows you the reality of a conversation I was having with a lawyer the other day in the elevator in Travis County, where he said, man, I'm mad about that Supreme Court ruling. It very often seems like judges just come up with the destination and make up BS to get to that destination. And that's what you're seeing in this case. That's what you're seeing in all of these cases. There's a judge who is politically inclined to not like the idea that people are getting equality through the implementation and the interpretation of these amendments. So he or she just decides that they're going to find a way to take that right away cases. People don't realize it, but it's intellectually dishonest if your whole ideology is textualism, because the 14th Amendment came about to protect the very people it was used as a bludgeon against in this order.
And again, for folks who don't understand this here, federal judges are appointed by the president. Federal judges are confirmed by the United States Senate. So if you want more judges like this guy, by all means, go vote for Trump. And by all means, elect the Republican United States Senate. But if you don't like this ruling, you might want to vote for Biden-Harris. And then you might want to make sure that Democrats control the Senate. I keep telling y'all, all this stuff is related.
Student loan forgiveness.
Going to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin, Unfiltered, on the Black Star Network.
For this 10-week online history course, go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, there's a 10-week online history course called Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. I teach the class on Saturdays, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our next classes are Saturday, March 9th, Saturday, March 16th, March 23rd, and March 30th. Okay, and then we have a few more classes after that. The class is on sale, $80, regularly $130. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch this anytime. So even after the course is over with, you can go back and watch the entire class, okay? And we instead of 10 sessions, we're going to do at least 11, possibly 12. The course outline, the lesson plans for all 10 classes or 10 plus classes are laid out here. And I'll go through and update it periodically because we add a few additional subjects. But we take you through our history. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. So we deal with archaeological discovery that have come out in the last 10, 20. So we deal with Egypt on the Potomac and how the layout of Washington, D.C. is based upon ancient African principles coming out of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. Kemet, one of the original names for Egypt, meaning land of the blacks. We look at the African origins of Star Wars and the Assyrian drama. There's an excerpt of an interview that I did with Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, where we look at this information. We look at the Hannibal Barca and the Punic Wars, okay, and especially the Battle of Cannae, 216 BC. We look at Hannibal crossing the Alps, crossing the Pyrenees, 219 BC, but the Battle of Cannae, 216 BC. The Battle of Zama, 202 BC, where Hannibal Barca is defeated by Publius Cornelius Scipio. And Publius Cornelius Scipio takes the surname Africanus after he defeats Hannibal Barca at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC. Africa is not named after a Roman general. The Roman general took the surname Africanus after he defeated Hannibal Barca. And we know that Africanus is Latin, meaning belonging to Africa. It's Latin, meaning belonging to Africa. We look at the 800-year occupation of the Europes, of the Africans known as the Moors, who take the teachings from the Nile Valley region of Africa into Europe. And this is going to bring Europe out of the Dark Ages. Okay. And we see the rise of Spanish conquest. We look at Christopher Columbus, and Columbus is essential to the expansion of the transatlantic slave trade and the exploitation of indigenous people and the exploitation of African people also. Okay. So we go through and look at this history chronologically. We also look at the fake Willie Lynch letter, 1712. Willie Lynch never historically existed. Wish we would just throw the Willie Lynch letter in the garbage can where it belongs. It's ahistorical. There are words in the Willie Lynch letter that didn't even exist in the early 1700s. Okay, the sentence structure, the syntax is not what they is not coming from England. That's a 20th century sentence structure, and their words from the 20th century, from the industrial and the automotive industry, things like that, that are in that letter. That was written about 1970 by Dr. Kwabena Ashanti, who's come out and admitted he wrote the Willie Lynch letter, and his Professor Manu Ampim, who I'll be interviewing later this month, who exposed Dr. Kwabena Ashanti as the author of the Willie Lynch letter. It's a fraud. Dr. Kwabena Ashanti meant well, but I think it's done more harm than good. Okay, so you can register for that course at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right, let's continue here. And I posted the information here in the thread of the broadcast as well. You can also email us through the website if you have any questions. Right here where it says contact the African History Network, you can email us through the website right there. You can email us also, okay? And if you want to support us through PayPal or Cash App, let's see, we have a preview of the class here, and we have information for the African History Network show, Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We broadcast on my social media platforms. And we have our audio podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Castbox, FM Player, TuneIn. It's about 9 different audio podcast platforms, okay? And you can support us also through PayPal and Cash App right here. $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN app. Click on the link here, takes you to our Cash App QR code. And I had to create this graphic because some people set up fake African History Network Cash App accounts. So these other ones out here are fake ones. Our tag is $ the AHN show, SHOW, and it may show my picture when you go to it also. But we have, click here on the link. We have the actual QR code, and this is our, you can support us through PayPal also,